gerrymandering is a problem in the United States. Always has been. Probably always will be as long as we have corrupt politicians. But nowadays, what politicians aren't corrupt for one way or another? The U.S. Supreme Court sidesteps major gerrymandering issue. The justices have sidestepped making a major decision on the limits of partisan gerrymandering. They instead sent the issue back down to the lower courts. What is the issue they are avoiding? Can a district be so partisan as to be constitutional? Meaning, is it possible for a voting district to lean so far to one partisan line that it breaks the gerrymandering rule?
Oh.
Yes. There are two cases before the courts, Wisconsin and Maryland. Wisconsin has Gill versus Whitford. While the Republicans held the state legislature, they drew lines so their party would get 2/3 of the vote, even though Democrats won the votes. In 2016, a 3-judge panel ruled a map violated voters' rights, the First and 14th Amendments, by tilting openly to Republicans. In 2012, Republicans were able to lock in 60 of the state assembly's 99 seats. The problem is they only had 47% of statewide vote.
Ooh.
Yes.
Huh.
Maryland. Benisic versus Lamone drew district lines so congressional seats would go Democrat in a traditionally Republican congressional seat area. In this case, in 2011, Maryland's Democratic Party diluted the Republican voting power in the district due to a revision of 6th congressional district. The preliminary injunction was declined by a federal district court. In a 7-2 vote, the Supreme Court ruled not on the gerrymandering, but instead passed down a ruling which stated the plaintiff from Wisconsin had not shown sufficient injury to seek the court's intervention. In the Maryland case, the Supreme Court ruled the lower court was just in declining the injunction. As you can see, the court avoided the partisan gerrymandering issue and instead passed the buck back to the lower courts.
That's because they didn't settle anything in the lower courts.
No.
And they're easy. They're both very easy to settle.
Ooh, throwing up and blood in the feces. I hope your puppy feels better. There's nothing worse than a sick pupper. There is nothing worse than a sick pupper. Lord.
Not sure she was throwing up and blood in the feces. Have you?
They've already. He went to the vet. He took the dog to the vet.
Okay.
So he's on top of it. Draconis is on top of it. Okay, ZTE. For those of you that don't know what ZTE is, they are the 4th largest manufacturer of smartphones in the United States.
No,
the problem
they're
they're China. They're Chinese. So here we go. I'm going to do this, change the pictures, and hand this one over to hubby.
In May, Trump announced he would reconsider the ZTE penalty, which ground the company's operations to a standstill. As a personal favor, Chinese President Xi Jinping earlier this month, Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross put forth a deal that would impose a $1 billion fine and allow the U.S. compliance officers to keep an eye on the company to aid ZTE reestablishing its business. This deal is being put forth as President Trump negotiates trade concessions from China in order to avoid a trade war. However, Republicans and Democrats alike say that the ZTE company poses a threat to national security. It was ZTE who pleaded guilty last year to conspiracy charges that included evading U.S. embargoes. They did this by selling U.S. equipment to Iran. This was followed by a ban on selling U.S. parts to China after ZTE was caught in a lie about disciplining the executive who violated the embargo. Senators Tom Cotton and Chris Van Hollen announced last Thursday they had no plans in place to alter their amendment to a defense authorization bill put back in place the lifted restrictions. The administration wants to make changes to the ZTE wording once Congress initiates negotiations to possibly merge the defense bills that are on the table. There are many congressmen hoping to find common ground on which to build a compromise in regards to the meeting with Trump next week.
So we're going to be keeping an eye on this.
I say bankrupt the bastards, personally.
Well, I mean, if they're willing to evade U.S. embargoes, okay, there's sanctions on these people. So, he doesn't want to... He's doing this as a favor to the Chinese president. Because, obviously, if they're the 4th major distributor of smartphones in the United States... That's a major cash cow for the Chinese people. Ping, ping, by the way. I know, he tries.
I have no clue how to say that.
He tries. But, you know, it's sticky when you have a company that is willing to evade embargoes and sell equipment to a country under sanctions.
I am okay with Japanese names. I am pretty good with Russian names, a few of the Slavic languages and everything, but Chinese or anything Mandarin kind of falls apart on me.
Yeah. All right.
Cantonese isn't easy either.
So here we go. U.S. South Korea exercises halted. In a show of good faith following the summit in Singapore, the U.S. and South Korea have halted their Ulchi Freedom Guardian exercises, which were slated for August. To allay concerns about joint exercises elsewhere, Pentagon spokeswoman Dana White stated, "There is no impact on Pacific exercises outside of the Korean Peninsula." Tokyo Minister Taro Kono said he understood the action to halt Ulchi, further stating it shows good faith in negotiations. The Southern Korean Defense Ministry spokeswoman, I thought we had long titles, Choi Hyun-so, said we are expecting a corresponding measure from North Korea.
That's pronounced Sue.
Sue said we are expecting a corresponding measure from North Korea in response to the suspension of the joint drills. While Secretary of State Pompeo said he would lead the follow-up talks to narrow down the vague language in the non-binding agreement, he has also stated the sanctions will remain until North Korea completely denuclearizes. So, you know the problem with Chinese smartphones is all the wings. Oh God, that joke's older than my grandmother. Come on, Batman. That joke is older than my grandmother.
Wing the wrong number.
Yeah, I had that in the kitty joke book.
Very quiet.
I mean, there are a lot of critics that say the agreement that was signed was vague and opened a lot of room for loop. But it was to me. The 4 points stated on the agreement is a groundwork from which to build negotiations to come up with a stronger and more binding agreement. You gotta start somewhere. And, they started somewhere, and I commend both of them for sitting down at the same table when a year ago they were calling each other's daughters Rocket Man and all these other things.
Oh.
Having a dick measuring contest. No, the dick measuring contest was funny.
It was.
It was funny. To see two heads of state sit there and call each other names.
I have a button too. It's bigger and it
worked. Yeah.
I'm like.
It wasn't professional, okay?
But it was funny.
But it was funny. It provided some pretty damn good entertainment with everybody running around going, "Oh my God, we're gonna go to war! It's gonna be a nuclear war!" Because Trump keeps making fun of Kim Jong Un. It's just like
Kim Jong Un was making fun of him, and it was a big. It was a top brass equals top brass trolling session from the both of them. They had a blast with that.
They did, and for them to be able.
And I would bet without anything and everything, they're on the phone sometime late at night with nobody listening and everything. What are we doing tomorrow?
Well, I hope so, because that would be funny. But I mean, for them to be able to sit down at a table together and be able to hammer out at least the beginnings of what could be a binding agreement to take the nuclear program out of North Korea. I mean, it's a big step. Nobody thought it would get this far.
No, it's all joking aside and everything, they are two fairly intelligent individuals, and each one of them wants the same thing. The best for everybody all around and everything. It's just how to go about this without making either one of us look bad.
Yeah, that's the trick.
So I want to make it look like I'm doing this huge super good deal, and Kim Jong Un's like, you know what? I need to look good so that I don't get killed immediately after this.
I know, right?
So let's make me look good. I make you look good. Everybody looks good. Everybody's happy.
Batman wants to know if they exchange dick pics.
Probably.
I wouldn't doubt it. Oh, that would be funny. Mine's bigger than yours. Prove it. Okay, I prove it. I am Kim Jong-un. I file mission to make a for small dick. Alright, and the last story coming out of Japan.
Quake in Japan kills 4. Western Japanese residents Monday had started the arduous task of cleaning up after a 6.1 magnitude quake struck the area early that day, which killed 4 and injured hundreds. It knocked over walls and set off fires in the area. It left many without utilities and grounded flights and commuter trains for most of the day. By that night, however, Public transit was back to normal with long lines while others chose to walk home. During the quake, many of the commuters sought refuge in shelters instead of trying to go home, and Takatsuki Mayor Takeshi Hamada apologized over the death of a woman due to a wall collapse, stating that the wall had not been built to code. Ooh, somebody's in trouble.
Uh-huh.
They're in serious trouble over there.
Yes.
Chief Cabinet Secretary Yoshihide Suga ordered a nationwide safety check on concrete structures located at public schools. In excess of 1,000 schools have been closed due to the discovery of wall cracks and minor damage. Many residents of the area said that it was a bad quake. It was not as bad as the Kobe quake of 1995, which killed more than 6,000 people. Much of northern Japan is still recovering from the 9.0 quake and tsunami of 2011.
His will roll, literally. Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
it was an 85-year-old woman who died under the wall collapse that was near a school. So the chief cabinet secretary is the chief cabinet secretary for the education department there in Japan, and he was the one that ordered an immediate inspection of all the concrete structures. Turned out the wall that collapsed was a concrete and cinder block structure that wasn't rated for earthquakes. That is the worst structure you can have during an earthquake. It topples like bricks.
It just basically shakes apart. Is what happened. The seams come apart and everything, and it just falls over. And it's supposed to be made. It's supposed to be reinforced concrete and everything with the rebar and all that in it and everything. It withstands a hell of a lot of movement.
Yeah, most definitely.
The Japanese people, they are, and I've done some business with a few Japanese companies here in the States, and they are so inexorably picky.
Oh yeah.
I mean, things that we would say, well, yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
It can pass
It
and everything.
It pass their muster.
They specifically told me, their engineers told me, if you see this, yeah, it does not pass. This is what passed. Look at it. You put it under magnifying lenses and microscopes when you're inspecting welds and things like that. Any bubble in the weld, it's a bad weld.
Yeah.
They recycle it.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Okay, now we have affiliates, y'all. We finally have affiliates. Let's get on with this, right?
Did you put Draconith in there?
Oh, he made it to. Oh, congratulations on your affiliate status, Draconith. He made it to affiliate.
He made it to affiliate.
Yes, he did.
Congratulations, Draconith, and everything. Keep up the good work. Look forward to seeing some more out of you.
All right, here we go.